The Great Hall of Elysium Prime buzzed with tension as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for the most important vote in Council history. Admiral Lisa Kane stood in the human delegation section, her uniform crisp and her face calm despite the storm brewing around her. She had served humanity for 20 years and had seen many council sessions, but nothing like this. Zarathel rose from the elven section, her silver hair catching the light as she moved to the central podium. The elf wore the traditional robes of her house, deep blue with silver threading that marked her as a high representative. Her voice carried across the chamber with the authority of someone who had lived for 3 centuries. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Zarathel began, her tone formal and cold. "We gather today to address a threat that grows stronger with each passing year. The humans have been among us for 50 years, and in that time they have shown themselves to be dangerous and unpredictable." Dr. Maya Torres, sitting next to Lisa, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Maya had spent her career building bridges between species, working as a diplomat and scientist. She had believed that understanding could overcome any differences between peoples. Now she watched as years of careful work crumbled before her eyes. "The evidence is clear," Zarathel continued, activating a holographic display. Images of human colonies filled the air above the assembly. In 5 decades, humans have established over 200 colonies. They expand faster than any species in Council history. They take resources without asking permission. They build weapons that violate our agreements about military limits. Lisa wanted to stand and defend her people, but protocol demanded silence during the presentation. She watched as the elf showed pictures of human mining operations, human ships, human cities. Everything was presented to make humanity look like an infection spreading across the galaxy. "But expansion is not their greatest crime," Zarathel said, her voice growing sharper. "Humans refuse to follow our guidance. They question our wisdom. They believe they know better than civilizations that have existed for thousands of years. This arrogance makes them a threat to galactic peace." In the Zephyrian section, Kethara listened with growing unease. The tall, purple-skinned warrior princess had fought alongside human soldiers during the Void War. She had seen their courage and honor firsthand. What Zarathel described did not match her experience, but speaking against the elven position would be political suicide for her empire. Maya finally stood when given permission to respond. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. "Honored representatives, humans have contributed greatly to Council civilization. Our medical advances have saved millions of lives across dozens of species. Our technology has improved transportation and communication for everyone. We have fought bravely in every Council conflict, including conflicts that were not our own." "Fighting is exactly the problem," interrupted another elven representative. "Humans solve everything with violence. They build bigger guns instead of seeking peaceful solutions. They are warriors first and thinkers second." "That is not fair," Maya replied. "We have prevented 3 wars through diplomatic solutions in the past decade alone. We have shared our knowledge freely with all Council members. We have never attacked another Council species." "You attack with your very presence," Zarathel said. "Your rapid growth threatens the balance we have maintained for millennia. Your new ideas disrupt traditions that have kept peace among the stars. Your questioning of authority undermines the stability of our government." Lisa clenched her fists as she listened. The charges were not about what humans had done wrong, but about what they were. The Council feared human potential, not human crimes. They were being punished for being different, for growing too fast, for thinking too freely. The debate continued for hours. Species after species rose to speak. Most supported the elven position, citing fears about human unpredictability. A few brave voices spoke in defense of humanity, but they were clearly outnumbered. The Altarians sent Tyranics to speak for them, and the blue-skinned scientists surprised everyone by abstaining from judgment. "The Altarian Republic believes more study is needed," Tyranics said carefully. "Human behavior patterns require additional observation before we can make such a permanent decision." When the vote finally came, the result was overwhelming. 847 species voted for human exile. Only 12 voted against. 23 abstained, including the Zephyrians and Altarians. Kethara met Lisa's eyes across the chamber and nodded slightly. a gesture of respect that few others noticed. Zarathel returned to the podium to announce the sentence. By the will of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby exiled from all Council space. You have 30 standard days to remove all human presence from Council territory. Any human found in Council space after that time will be arrested and imprisoned. This decision is final and cannot be appealed. The chamber erupted in celebration from most species and shocked silence from others. Lisa stood slowly, her face showing no emotion despite the fury burning inside her. She had prepared for this possibility, but the reality still hit like a physical blow. Maya felt tears running down her face as she gathered her diplomatic files. 50 years of careful relationship building destroyed in a single vote. All her work, all her hopes for galactic unity, crushed by fear and prejudice. "Admiral Kane!" Zarathel called out as the human delegation prepared to leave. "You have 30 days. Do not test our resolve." Lisa turned to face the elf, her voice calm and professional. "We will comply with the Council's decision, but you should know that humanity will remember this day. We will remember who our friends were and who our enemies were." The human ships began departing Council space within hours of the vote. Colonies that had existed for decades were abandoned overnight. Trade relationships built over years were severed. Families were separated as human civilians rushed to reach Council borders before the deadline. Lisa stood on the bridge of her flagship as the last human vessel crossed into the Outer Rim territories. Behind them lay everything they had built in Council space. Ahead lay the unknown frontier, dangerous and unwelcoming. But for the first time since the vote, she smiled. "Set course for the Rim worlds," she ordered her crew. "We have work to do." As the human fleet disappeared into the darkness beyond Council space, few could imagine that they had just witnessed the birth of the galaxy's next superpower. The exile that was meant to end human expansion had instead freed humanity to grow beyond all limits. In trying to contain the humans, the Council had unleashed them upon the stars. 10 years had passed since the exile, and Captain Amy Foster ducked as another plasma bolt scorched the air above her head. The Kraxan raiders had found the human convoy 3 hours ago, and the fight had been brutal ever since. Amy rolled behind a cargo container and checked her weapon's power level, half charged, enough for maybe 20 more shots. "Status report," she called into her communicator, while enemy fire pinned her team down. "Transport ships are secure," came the reply from Lieutenant Kate Murphy. "Colonists are safe in the armored compartments, but we need to end this soon or we'll run out of ammunition." Amy nodded and activated her tactical display. The raiders had superior numbers but inferior equipment. Human weapons had improved dramatically since the exile, born from necessity and constant warfare. Every human colony in the Rim territories faced the same threats, pirates and hostile aliens who saw them as easy targets. "Execute Pattern 7, Amy ordered. Her Marines knew the drill. They had practiced it hundreds of times in the past year alone. Human military tactics had evolved far beyond what the Council had ever seen, shaped by fighting for survival every single day. The battle ended 20 minutes later with the raiders in full retreat. Amy counted her casualties and felt the familiar weight of command. 3 wounded, none dead. They had been lucky this time. Tomorrow there would be another convoy to protect, another group of raiders to fight, another day of survival in the lawless frontier. Meanwhile, on the research station, orbiting New Terra, Dr. Maya Torres studied the biological samples her teams had collected from various Rim world species. What had started as a desperate attempt to understand potential threats had become something much more valuable. Human medical science had advanced by decades in just 10 years, driven by the need to treat injuries and diseases from dozens of unknown alien species. "Maya, you need to see this," called Dr. Linda Hayes from across the laboratory. Linda had joined the research team 5 years ago, one of many brilliant scientists who had chosen exile over abandoning their families. The Rim territories had become a magnet for human talent, people who preferred freedom and challenge over comfort and safety. Maya walked over to Linda's workstation and stared at the data on the screen. "Is this accurate?" "I've run the tests." 12 times, Linda replied. "The protein synthesis we've developed doesn't just work on humans. It can be adapted for any carbon-based life form." We've essentially solved the problem of cross-species medicine. Maya felt a chill of excitement. This discovery could revolutionize healthcare across the galaxy, but they were exiled from the very civilizations that could benefit most from it. The irony was not lost on her that humanity's greatest medical breakthrough had come from being forced to survive alone. Deep in Council space, Velanya worked late in her engineering laboratory on Elysium Prime. The young elf had always been curious about human technology, but such interest was now considered almost treasonous. Still, she could not stop herself from studying the technical reports that filtered in from the Rim territories. The data made no sense according to everything she had been taught. Human technology should have stagnated without Council guidance and resources. Instead, it appeared to be advancing at an impossible rate. Their ships were faster, their weapons more efficient, their life support systems more reliable. How were they achieving such progress while fighting for survival in the most dangerous region of the galaxy? Working late again, Velanya asked her supervisor, an older elf named Coltherin, who had little patience for her curiosity about forbidden subjects. Just reviewing standard reports, she replied carefully. Nothing important. But it was important, more than she dared admit. Every report showed human colonies not just surviving, but thriving. Their population had grown by 30% since the exile. Their industrial capacity had doubled. Their military had evolved from a defensive force into something that could challenge any Council fleet. On the other side of the galaxy, Tyrannix faced her own struggles with bureaucracy and tradition. The Altarian scientist had been quietly monitoring human development since the exile vote, using her government's intelligence networks to gather information. What she learned disturbed and impressed her in equal measure. The humans have discovered something, she reported to the Altarian Science Council. Their faster-than-light travel has improved by 40% efficiency. Their energy production systems are generating twice the output of our best designs. Their communication networks can maintain contact across distances we thought impossible. How can this be verified? Asked the Council chairman, his blue skin darkening with concern. Our intelligence sources are reliable. I request permission to conduct a direct observation mission, Tyrannix said carefully. The Altarian Republic needs to understand these developments before they affect galactic stability. Absolutely not, the chairman replied immediately. Contact with exiled humans is forbidden by Council law. We cannot risk our membership for the sake of curiosity. But Tyrannix had already made her decision. That night, she began planning an unauthorized mission to human space. The risk to her career and her freedom was enormous, but the potential knowledge was worth any price. Back in the Rim territories, Commander Nicole Brooks reviewed intelligence reports in her secure facility on Haven Station. Her networks had grown far beyond anything the Council imagined possible. Human intelligence gathering had become sophisticated and far-reaching, born from the necessity of knowing who might attack them next. The Council is having problems, she reported to Admiral Lisa Kane during their weekly briefing. Pirates are raiding their outer territories more frequently. 3 elven colonies have requested additional military protection in the past month alone. The Zephyrian Empire has lost 2 mining stations to unknown attackers. Lisa studied the data with interest. The same lawless elements that had forced humanity to become stronger were now threatening the comfortable civilizations that had exiled them. Any requests for assistance? Not officially, Nicole replied. But our sources indicate growing desperation in several Council governments. The elven military is stretched thin trying to protect their expanded territory. The Zephyrians are losing ships faster than they can build replacements. Let them handle their own problems, Lisa said firmly. We have our own people to protect. But privately, she wondered how long the Council's isolation policy could last. Sooner or later, the galaxy would face a threat too large for any single civilization to handle alone. When that day came, humanity would be ready. In her private quarters that night, Lisa reviewed the transformation reports from across human space. New colonies were being established every month. Military academies were graduating officers trained in tactics no Council species had ever seen. Research facilities were making breakthroughs that would have taken centuries under the old system. The exile had done exactly what the Council feared it would prevent. It had freed humanity from the restrictions and traditions that had held them back. Without Council oversight, human innovation had exploded. Without Council protection, human military skills had sharpened to a razor's edge. Without Council guidance, human society had evolved into something entirely new. Amy Foster's convoy reached New Terra safely the next morning, another successful mission in the endless campaign to protect human civilians. As she watched families disembark to start new lives on a frontier world, she felt pride in what her people had accomplished. They had been exiled as refugees and outcasts. But in just 10 years, they had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization forged in conflict, strengthened by adversity, and united by the shared experience of surviving alone among the stars. The Council had tried to break them by casting them out. Instead, they had created their own greatest threat. The first sign of disaster came as a whisper in the void, a distress signal so faint that only the most sensitive equipment could detect it. Commander Nicole Brooks sat in her intelligence station on Haven Base, staring at the decoded message that had taken her team 6 hours to decipher. The transmission came from deep in Council space, from a sector that should have been completely secure. "This can't be right," said Lieutenant Beth Taylor, her communication specialist. "According to this, an entire star system has gone dark. No ships, no planets, no signals, just empty space where the Kepler system used to be." Nicole felt a chill run down her spine. She had seen many strange things in her 15 years of intelligence work, but nothing like this. "Send a priority. Message to Admiral Kane. She needs to see this immediately." Across the galaxy, Zara Thel stood on the bridge of her flagship as it approached what had once been the thriving elven colony of Silverleaf. The system should have contained 3 planets, 2 space stations, and over 50 million inhabitants. Instead, her sensors showed only debris and radiation. "How is this possible?" she whispered to her tactical officer, a younger elf named Silmarin who had served under her for 30 years. "Unknown, Admiral," Silmarin replied, his voice shaking. "The debris patterns suggest the planets were broken apart from within. No weapon signatures, no enemy ships detected. It's as if something consumed everything from the inside out." The first contact with the Devourers had happened 3 days earlier, though no one in the Council understood what they were facing. The ancient machine intelligence had awakened from eons of slumber, drawn by the energy signatures of advanced civilizations. They moved through space like a plague of mechanical locusts, consuming everything in their path and leaving only emptiness behind. Cathara led the Zephyrian response fleet toward the outer territories of her empire, where colonies had stopped, responding to communication attempts. The purple-skinned warrior princess had faced many enemies in her long military career, but the reports from the few survivors made no sense. "They described ships that looked like metal spiders," reported her intelligence officer Captain Nixera. "Hundreds of them, each one the size of a cruiser. They don't use energy weapons or projectiles. They seem to drain the power from everything they touch." "How do we fight an enemy that feeds on energy?" Cathara asked, more to herself than to her crew. The Zephyrian military was built around energy-based warfare, powerful plasma weapons, and force shields. If their reports were accurate, their greatest strengths might become weaknesses against this new threat. The answer came when her fleet reached the Proxima mining station, or what was left of it. The massive orbital facility had been reduced to a hollow shell, its power cores drained, its metal structure partially dissolved. A few escape pods floated nearby, containing survivors who had witnessed the attack. "They came out of nowhere," gasped Commander Veltrix, the station's former security chief. "Thousands of small ships moving in perfect coordination. They attached themselves to our hull and started feeding. Our weapons had no effect. Every shot we fired seemed to make them stronger." In her laboratory on Elysium Prime, Velanya worked frantically to analyze the few sensor readings that had survived the attacks. The young elven engineer had convinced her superiors that understanding the enemy was crucial for survival, though she kept her real motivations to herself. The data revealed technology far beyond anything in Council records. The attacking ships used principles of energy manipulation that should have been impossible. They could absorb any form of directed energy and convert it into propulsion and reproduction. Conventional weapons were not just useless against them, they were counterproductive. "We need new approaches," she muttered while reviewing the combat reports. "Everything we know about warfare is obsolete against these things." Her thoughts turned to the technical reports she had secretly studied about human innovations. Human military doctrine emphasized adaptability and unconventional tactics. They used kinetic weapons alongside energy systems, employed unpredictable movement patterns, and maintained distributed command structures that could function even under extreme damage. Meanwhile, Tyranix had completed her unauthorized mission to human space, gathering intelligence that both amazed and terrified her. The Altarian scientist had observed human military exercises from a concealed sensor platform, watching their fleets maneuver with precision that exceeded anything in Council space. But more importantly, she had detected energy signatures that suggested humans had developed defenses against the exact type of threat now facing the galaxy. Their ships used something called distributed shielding, spreading defensive energy across multiple nodes instead of relying on single powerful barriers. Their weapons included both energy and kinetic systems, giving them options against any type of enemy. "I have to warn them," she said to herself, as her ship headed back toward Altarian space. "The Council will never listen, but maybe the humans can help us survive this." Admiral Lisa Kane received the intelligence reports from multiple sources within the same week. Nicole's intercepted distress signals, Tyranix's sensor data from her unauthorized observation, and fragments of communication from panicked Council forces all painted the same picture. Something was systematically destroying the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. "Analysis, Dr. Torres," Lisa said during the emergency briefing she had called with her senior staff. Maya had been studying the available data for 2 days straight, comparing it with everything humans had learned about unknown technologies during their exile. Based on the attack patterns and energy absorption capabilities, we're dealing with a machine intelligence that feeds on the very technologies that make civilizations advanced. They're attracted to high-energy signatures and can neutralize any conventional defense. "Can we fight them?" asked Captain Amy Foster, who had been promoted to admiral after 10 years of successful convoy protection. "With conventional tactics? No," Maya replied honestly. "But we have advantages the Council species don't. Our weapons mix kinetic and energy systems. Our ships can operate with minimal power signatures when necessary. Most importantly, our command structure is designed to function even when communication is impossible." Lisa nodded slowly. The exile had forced humanity to develop exactly the kind of flexibility that might be needed against this new threat. But the question remained whether they should use that advantage to help the civilizations that had cast them out. The decision was made for them when Velanya's secret transmission reached human space. The young elf had risked everything to send a desperate plea for assistance, along with complete technical data about the Devourer attacks. "To any human commanders receiving this message," her recorded image said, "the galaxy faces extinction. These machines have already consumed 17 star systems and show no signs of stopping. The Council military cannot resist them. I am sending you all our technical data in the hope that you can succeed where we have failed. Please, for the sake of all life in the galaxy, help us." Nicole brought the message to Lisa's attention immediately. "It's authentic," she confirmed. "Our source verification protocols confirm this came from inside the Elven Technical Committee. She's risking her life to contact us." Lisa studied the young elf's face on the screen, seeing desperation and hope in equal measure. This was someone who had overcome a lifetime of conditioning to reach out to humanity's supposed enemies. "Convene the Fleet Council," Lisa ordered. "It's time to make a decision that will define humanity's future." 3 hours later, the senior commanders of the human fleet sat around a holographic conference table, representatives from every major human colony and military installation. The debate was brief but intense. "They exiled us," argued Admiral Susan Clark from the Outer Rim Command. "They called us dangerous and unpredictable. Why should we risk our people to save them?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Amy replied firmly. "We don't fight to save the Council. We fight to save the millions of innocent people who had no voice in our exile." Maya added her voice to the discussion. "If these devourers succeed in destroying Council civilization, they won't stop there. Eventually, they'll find us too. Better to fight them now while we have potential allies than face them alone later." Lisa listened to the arguments but had already made her decision. The exile had been meant to isolate humanity, to make them weak and helpless. Instead, it had forged them into something stronger than their oppressors ever imagined. Now it was time to prove that strength could be used for protection rather than conquest. "We intervene," she announced. "Not for the Council's sake, but for the future of all sentient life. Prepare the fleet for departure. We're going back to Council space." The first sign that everything had changed came when Zarathel's sensors detected ships approaching from the direction of the Outer Rim. She stood on her flagship's bridge, watching the tactical display as unidentified vessels moved through space. Using technology her people had never seen before. "Admiral, the ships are using some form of stealth field," reported her sensor operator. "We can barely detect them even at close range. Energy signatures are minimal, but the mass readings suggest vessels much larger than anything in our databases." Zarathel felt her heart skip as she realized what she was seeing. "Send an identification request. Standard Council protocols." The response came immediately in perfect galactic standard. "This is Admiral Lisa Kane of the Human Defense Fleet. We are responding to requests for assistance against the Devourer. Threat. Transmitting authentication codes now." "Impossible," whispered Silmarin from beside her. "Humans were exiled 15 years ago. Their technology was primitive compared to ours." But the evidence was unmistakable. The ships decloaking around them were clearly of human origin, but they showed technological advancement that should have taken centuries to achieve. Sleek hulls with adaptive armor, propulsion systems that bent space without the massive energy, requirements of Council faster than light drives, and weapons that seemed to shift configuration as she watched. "Admiral Kane," Zarathel said carefully, "you are in violation of Council law by entering this space." "Council law is irrelevant if there's no Council left to enforce it," Lisa replied calmly. "According to our intelligence, you've lost 23 star systems to the Devourers in the past month. Would you prefer to discuss legal technicalities or coordinate our defense against extinction?" Before Zarathel could respond, alarms started screaming across her bridge. The Devourers had found them, emerging from hyperspace in a swarm that darkened the star field. Thousands of spider-like machines, each one crackling with absorbed energy from their previous conquests. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Zarathel ordered, falling back on decades of military training even as she watched her energy weapons prove useless against the approaching swarm. "Negative," came Lisa's voice over the communication channel. "All Council ships, reduce power to minimal levels and fall back to coordinates I'm transmitting. Human fleet, engage pattern alpha." Zarathel watched in amazement as the human ships moved with precision that exceeded anything she had ever seen. They didn't rely on massive energy shields or overwhelming firepower. Instead, they used speed and coordination, striking at the Devourers with weapons that seemed designed specifically for this type of enemy. Admiral Amy Foster led the first wave of human fighters, small ships that darted between the larger Devourer units like insects around giants. Her pilots had trained for this exact scenario, using tactics that would have been impossible under Council military doctrine. "Remember, these things feed on energy," Amy's voice crackled over the combat network. "Kinetic weapons only until we identify their command nodes. Stay mobile, stay unpredictable, and watch each other's backs." The human fighters unleashed clouds of magnetic accelerator projectiles, solid metal slugs that hit the Devourers at significant fractions of light speed. Without energy to absorb, the machine intelligences found themselves vulnerable to simple physics. Their adaptive armor meant nothing against chunks of metal moving at relativistic velocities. Dr. Maya Torres worked frantically from her position aboard Lisa's flagship, analyzing Devourer behavior patterns and transmitting tactical updates to the human fleet. "I'm seeing hierarchical organization," she reported. "The smaller units are controlled by larger command vessels. If we can identify and eliminate the command nodes, we can disrupt their coordination." Tyrannix, who had joined the human fleet after defecting from Council space, assisted Maya's analysis with her deep knowledge of energy manipulation technology. "The command vessels show different energy signatures," she said, her blue fingers flying over the sensor controls. "They're absorbing power from their subordinate units and using it to maintain network cohesion." "Understood," Lisa replied, then switched to the fleet communication channel. "All ships, priority targets are the large units showing increased energy output. Coordinate your attacks and hit them simultaneously." The battle turned when Captain Nicole Brooks led a squadron of stealth ships directly at the largest Devourer command vessel. Her intelligence background had taught her to think like her enemies, and she had identified the central coordinating intelligence that controlled the entire swarm. "This is Phantom Leader," she reported as her ships closed to point-blank range. "Initiating kinetic bombardment of primary target." The massive Devourer command ship disintegrated under concentrated fire from human railguns, weapons that fired projectiles with enough kinetic energy to shatter asteroids. As it died, the coordinated behavior of hundreds of smaller Devourers collapsed into chaos. Cathara watched the battle from her position with the retreating Council forces, her warrior's eye appreciating tactics she had never imagined possible. The humans fought with a combination of individual initiative and perfect coordination that seemed impossible to achieve. "How are they doing this?" she asked her tactical officer. "Their ships move independently, but attack in perfect synchronization. No communication delays, no confusion, no hesitation." "Unknown, Admiral," Nixara replied. "Their command structure appears to be completely decentralized. Each ship captain can make independent decisions while maintaining overall strategic coordination." As the battle progressed, Vilanya monitored the engagement from her concealed observation post. The young elf had managed to convince her superiors that direct observation of the fighting was necessary for future defense planning, though she was really more interested in studying human military technology. What she saw revolutionized her understanding of warfare itself. Human ships used adaptive tactics that changed moment by moment based on enemy responses. Their weapon systems could reconfigure themselves during combat, switching between kinetic and energy attacks as the situation demanded. Most impressively, their crews showed initiative and creativity that no Council military training had ever encouraged. "They're not just following orders," she whispered to herself while recording the engagement. "Every human commander is thinking, adapting, improving their approach in real time. It's like watching thousands of individual minds working as a single organism." The tide of battle turned decisively when Lisa implemented what humans called the distributed network assault. Instead of concentrating firepower on single targets, human ships spread out across the entire Devourer formation and attacked simultaneously from every direction. "All units, execute dispersion pattern 7, Lisa ordered. "Maximum separation, continuous movement, independent target selection." The Devourers, designed to absorb and redirect energy-based attacks, found themselves overwhelmed by kinetic bombardment from directions they couldn't predict or counter. Their adaptive defenses meant nothing against solid matter moving at velocities their programming had never encountered. Within 6 hours, the swarm that had destroyed multiple star systems was reduced to floating debris. The surviving Devourer units retreated into hyperspace, their coordination broken and their command structure shattered. As the battle ended, Zarathel found herself staring at the tactical display in disbelief. The human fleet had not only defeated an enemy that had overwhelmed every Council defense, they had done it with minimal casualties and resources that seemed impossible for an exiled civilization to possess. "Admiral Kane," she said over the communication channel, her voice filled with wonder and shame in equal measure. "How did you do this? 15 years ago, your technology was decades behind ours." Lisa's reply was calm and professional, but Zarathel could hear the satisfaction beneath the surface. 15 years ago, we were bound by Council limitations and traditions. Exile forced us to innovate or die. We chose innovation." "Your tactics, your technology, your coordination," Zarathel continued. "Everything you've shown us today should have been impossible to develop in such a short time." "Adversity is an excellent teacher," Lisa replied. "When your survival depends on being better than your enemies, you find ways to exceed every limitation. The Council thought exile would weaken us. Instead, it freed us to become what we truly could be." Cathara moved her damaged fleet closer to the human formation, her warrior's pride compelling her to acknowledge superior fighting ability. "Admiral Kane, the Zephyrian Empire requests permission to study your tactics. We have much to learn from your success." "Permission granted," Lisa replied. "But understand that this is only the beginning. We've defeated one Devourer swarm, but there are others. The galaxy needs to work together if we're going to survive what's coming." As word of the victory spread across Council space, the political implications became clear to everyone. Humanity had returned not as supplicants seeking readmission, but as saviors with capabilities that exceeded anything the Council possessed. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted permanently, and everyone knew it. 6 months after the first Devourer defeat, delegates from across the galaxy gathered on New Geneva, a human colony world that had become the unofficial capital of the new galactic order. Admiral Lisa Kane stood before the assembled representatives, wearing the uniform of the newly created Galactic Defense Force rather than human military colors. The great hall buzzed with nervous energy as species that had spent millennia following elven leadership now looked to humanity for guidance. The transformation had been swift and decisive, driven by the simple reality that human military technology was the only thing standing between civilization and extinction. "Honored delegates," Lisa began, her voice carrying the authority earned through victory rather than tradition. "We gather today not to restore the old order, but to build something better. The Devourer threat has shown us that isolation and competition make us all vulnerable. Unity and cooperation are our only path to survival." Zarathel sat in the front row, her silver hair now showing streaks of premature white from the stress of watching her civilization crumble and rebuild. The elf who had once demanded human exile now found herself preparing to formally request membership in a human-led alliance. "The Elven Dominion acknowledges its mistakes," she said when called upon to speak. "We allowed fear and prejudice to blind us to human potential. We cast out the very people who could have saved us years ago. I formally apologize to humanity on behalf of my people and request admission to the Terran Alliance." The apology sent ripples through the assembly. For a species that had considered itself the galaxy's natural leaders, to admit error so publicly was unprecedented, but the mathematics of survival were undeniable. Human technology had advanced beyond anything the elves could match, and their military had proven superior in every engagement against the Devourers. Dr. Maya Torres, now serving as the Alliance's First Minister of Interspecies Cooperation, responded with the grace that had made her humanity's finest diplomat. "The Terran Alliance accepts the Elven Dominion's application for membership. We believe that diversity of thought and experience makes us all stronger. Your people's wisdom and our innovation together can build a better galaxy." Kethara rose next, her purple skin showing the ritual scars she had added after witnessing human combat effectiveness. In Zephyrian culture, such marks honored warriors whose skill exceeded one's own. "The Zephyrian Empire offers full military alliance with the Terran Defense Force," she announced. "Our fleets will serve under human command until our officers complete training in your tactical methods. We have much to learn from those who turned exile into strength." Captain Amy Foster, now Admiral of the Frontier Defense Fleet, nodded respectfully to the Zephyrian leader. Their friendship had grown from mutual combat experience, warriors recognizing excellence in each other regardless of species. "The Alliance welcomes Zephyrian military cooperation," Amy replied. "Your people's courage and honor will be valuable assets in the battles ahead. Together, we can protect worlds that neither of our peoples could defend alone." Tyrannix spoke for the Altarian Republic, her blue skin showing the excitement of a scientist who had witnessed impossible discoveries become reality. "The Altarian Republic formally requests full scientific cooperation with human research institutions. Your advances in energy manipulation and faster-than-light travel could revolutionize galactic civilization." "Cooperation granted," Maya responded. "Human and Altarian scientists working together have already made breakthroughs neither could achieve alone. Dr. Tyrannix will head the new Joint Research Council." The session continued as species after species formally requested admission to the human-led alliance. The old council structure had collapsed completely, its member worlds recognizing that traditional leadership had failed catastrophically against the Devourer threat. Velanya, now serving as the Elven Dominion's chief technology liaison, presented her analysis of human engineering achievements to the assembly. The young elf had become one of humanity's greatest advocates among her own people, using her technical expertise to explain how human innovation had surpassed elven traditions. In 15 years of exile, humans achieved technological advancement that should have taken centuries, she reported. Their distributed command systems, adaptive weapons platforms, and efficient faster-than-light drives represent fundamental improvements over traditional designs. By adopting human innovations, Alliance members can expect to see similar improvements in their own capabilities. Commander Nicole Brooks, now Director of Alliance Intelligence, briefed the delegates on the ongoing Devourer threat. Her networks had expanded across the galaxy, creating an information system that exceeded anything the old Council had possessed. Long-range sensors have detected at least 7 more Devourer swarms in distant sectors, she reported. Each one is larger than the force we defeated 6 months ago. Our victory bought us time, but the war is far from over. Only a united galaxy with standardized defense systems can hope to survive what's coming. The delegates absorbed this information with the gravity it deserved. The choice was stark: unite under human leadership or face extinction separately. The formal sessions concluded, smaller groups gathered for private discussions. Zarathel found herself walking through New Geneva's parks with Lisa, 2 former enemies now working together to save their peoples. I keep wondering what would have happened if we had accepted humanity from the beginning, Zarathel said, her voice filled with regret. How many lives could have been saved if we had embraced your innovations instead of fearing them? The past is unchangeable, Lisa replied diplomatically. What matters now is building a future where such mistakes cannot happen again. The alliance will be based on merit and cooperation, not tradition and prejudice. Your people have every right to demand retribution for the exile, Zarathel continued. Why do you choose cooperation instead? Lisa paused by a fountain where human and elven children played together, their laughter mixing in the afternoon. Because hatred would make us no better than our enemies. We fight to protect life, not to dominate it. The galaxy has room for all of us if we work together. Cathara and Amy spent their time reviewing joint training exercises, warrior diplomats planning defense strategies for 100 worlds. The Zephyrian had been amazed by human tactical flexibility, while Amy had gained deep respect for Zephyrian honor and courage. Your people saved my empire, Cathara said as they watched Alliance ships practicing coordinated maneuvers. How do the Zephyrians repay such a debt? By standing with us when the next threat comes, Amy replied, and by helping us build something better than what came before. The Alliance isn't about human dominance. It's about everyone contributing their best abilities to protect everyone else. In the research districts, Maya and Tyranix worked alongside Velanya to establish the new scientific cooperation protocols. The combination of human innovation, Altarian precision, and elven theoretical knowledge was already producing results that astounded even the researchers themselves. We've reduced faster-than-light travel time by 60%, Tyranix reported during one of their evening briefings. The hybrid drive system uses human efficiency improvements with Altarian power regulation and elven navigation algorithms. Medical cooperation is showing similar results, Maya added. Cross-species treatment protocols are now possible for the first time in galactic history. We can save lives that would have been lost to biological incompatibilities. As the months passed, the transformation of galactic civilization accelerated. Human technology spread through Alliance space, improving everything from communication to transportation to defense. More importantly, human social concepts began taking root, ideas about merit-based leadership and inclusive decision-making that challenged millennia of tradition. The first major test of the new order came when another Devourer swarm appeared in the Centauri sector. But this time, the response was coordinated across 40 star systems, with human tactics executed by multi-species crews using standardized equipment and training. Lisa watched the battle reports from the Alliance Command Center, seeing the results of months of preparation and cooperation. Human commanders worked seamlessly with elven navigation specialists, Zephyrian warriors fought alongside Altarian technicians, and dozens of other species contributed their unique abilities to the common defense. Contact lost with Devourer. Command ship, Nicole reported from her intelligence station. Enemy formation is breaking apart. Estimated time to victory 47 minutes. The speed and efficiency of the victory stunned even Lisa. What had required the full human fleet 6 months earlier was now accomplished by a mixed force that included ships from a dozen different species. The Alliance had become more than the sum of its parts. As news of the victory spread, requests for alliance membership poured in from across the galaxy. Species that had maintained neutrality or isolation for millennia now sought protection under the human-led defense umbrella. 5 years later, Lisa stood once again in the Great Hall of New Geneva, but now it was filled with representatives from over 300 species. The Galactic Alliance had become the largest political entity in recorded history, united not by conquest, but by mutual benefit and protection.